Most people cannot finish reading this sentence without wanting to check their phone. That is not an insult. That is a measurement. In 2004, a researcher at the University of California timed how long the average person could focus on a single screen before their attention moved somewhere else. The answer was 2.5 minutes. She ran the same study in 2012, 75 seconds. She ran it again recently, 47 seconds. In less than 20 years, we lost the ability to focus for even 1 minute. And here is what makes that number terrifying. It is not that people are trying to focus and failing. It is that most people have completely stopped noticing that they cannot. They switch from tab to tab, from phone to laptop to phone again, and it feels completely normal. It feels like just the way things are, but it is not the way things have always been. Something happened to us. Something was done to us, deliberately, quietly, and by people who knew exactly what they were doing. And those people are worth trillions of dollars. This is the story of what they did, what it cost us, and how a quiet few are in the process of taking it all back. I want you to think about someone called Daniel. Daniel is not a real person. He is every person. He is probably you, at least in part. In 2004, Daniel was a knowledge worker at a mid-sized company. Every morning without fail, he would sit at his desk before anyone else arrived. He would open a thick industry report, sometimes 40 pages long, pour himself a coffee and read. Not skim, read. He absorbed the arguments. He questioned the conclusions. He remembered the data hours later without needing to check his notes. When colleagues came to him with problems, he had answers, real, considered, thoughtful answers, because his mind had been given the space to actually think. Now fast forward to today. Daniel sits at the same desk. Same coffee, same reports land in his inbox every morning, but something is different. He opens the report, reads the first paragraph. His phone lights up. He glances at it, just for a second, and when he looks back at the screen, he has already lost his place. He starts again, gets 3 sentences in. An email notification pops up in the corner. He minimizes it without opening it, but the damage is already done. His train of thought is gone. By the time he reaches the bottom of the first page, if he reaches it, he cannot tell you what the opening paragraph said. He is not lazier than he was in 2004. He is not less intelligent. He has not aged into incompetence. Something has changed inside his brain, and a team of scientists at Stanford University decided to find out exactly what. In 2020, a Stanford researcher named Kevin Midori brought 80 young adults into his lab. These were not elderly people, not people with attention disorders, not people who were struggling in any obvious way. They were healthy adults between 18 and 26 years old, the generation that grew up with smartphones already in their hands. Midori fitted each of them with an EEG cap, a device that reads electrical activity directly from the surface of the brain in real time. He also measured the dilation of their pupils, because the pupil is one of the most honest indicators of where the human mind actually is at any given moment. Then he gave them a simple memory task. What he found was published in Nature, one of the most respected and rigorous scientific journals in the world, and it was not what anyone expected. Every single time a participant's attention drifted, even for a fraction of a second, their brain failed to form the memory of what they had just experienced. Not forgot later, never stored it in the first place. The lapse in attention did not just interrupt the experience, it erased it. Midori stated it clearly. Lapses in attention before remembering partially explain why we forget in the moment, and why people who consume more media across multiple platforms consistently show worse memory than those who do not. Now think about what that means for your actual life. Every time your phone buzzes during a conversation, you are not just momentarily distracted, you are losing the memory of what the other person just said. Every time you switch tabs while reading something important, you are not just losing your place, you are losing the meaning. Every meeting you half attend while checking messages under the table, you are not just being rude, you are erasing it. You are not just scattered across too many things, you are slowly disappearing from your own life, one notification at a time. So, how did we get here? Because this did not happen by accident. It did not happen because human beings suddenly became weaker or lazier or less capable than the generations before them. It happened because someone built a machine specifically designed to do exactly this. And that machine is sitting in your pocket right now. In 2024, a survey of 1,000 Americans found that people were checking their phones 205 times every single day. That is once every 5 minutes during every waking hour of every single day. But here is what most people never stop to consider about that number. Those check-ins were not random. They were not impulsive. They were not a personal failing. They were engineered. Every notification that lands on your phone was designed by a team of some of the most intelligent people in the world, engineers and psychologists and neuroscientists whose entire job was to identify the precise moment your brain becomes available for interruption and hit it. The red dot on the app icon, the buzz that comes just as you settle into something, the autoplay video that starts before the last one finishes, the infinite scroll that never reaches a bottom. None of these are accidents. Every single one was tested, refined, optimized until it worked perfectly. And a landmark study published in 2025, analyzing 71 separate research papers covering nearly 100,000 people, confirmed what many had suspected, but few wanted to say out loud. Regular exposure to short-form video content is directly and measurably linked to weaker attention, weaker self-control, and significantly worse cognitive performance overall. The tools that billions of people use every single day to feel connected, to feel informed, to feel entertained, are quietly and systematically making them less able to think deeply, less able to focus, less able to remember. And the most dangerous part of all of this is that it feels like absolutely nothing. It feels like scrolling. It feels like a quick break. It feels like just checking in. That is not a coincidence. That is the design. But here's what the research also found, and this is the part that almost nobody talks about. The damage is not permanent. The brain is not broken. It has simply been trained in the wrong direction. And anything that can be trained in one direction can be trained back. There is a small group of people scattered quietly across the world who figured this out. Not through a viral trend, not through a best-selling book, not through a podcast that everyone was listening to for 3 weeks before moving on to the next thing. They figured it out by doing something radical. They paid attention to what was actually happening to them. And then they made 3 quiet changes that gave them something that is becoming one of the rarest things on earth: the ability to think deeply for longer than 47 seconds. The first change is what researchers call friction architecture. Instead of relying on willpower, which the research consistently shows is unreliable and exhaustible, they changed their physical environment so that distraction became harder to reach than focus. Phone left in another room, not face down on the desk, not on silent, in another room. Notifications turned off entirely, not silenced, off one screen, one window, one task. They did not fight the machine, they simply moved away from it. The second change is what they call the 47-second practice. Every single day, without exception, they sit with one single thought, one problem, one idea, one page of a book, for at least 48 seconds without switching to anything else. Not an hour, not a dramatic commitment, just 48 seconds of deliberate stillness. Because the research is clear. The brain rebuilds its capacity for focus the same way a muscle rebuilds after being unused, through small, consistent resistance applied daily over time. 47 seconds became 90 seconds, then 5 minutes, then 30, then an hour, one quiet day at a time. The third change is what they call the cathedral block. Every day, without negotiation, they protect one block of 90 minutes for their most important work. Phone in the other room, inbox closed, door shut if possible, 90 minutes, one task, complete silence. Not because they are superhuman, not because they have more discipline than everyone else, but because they built a system where showing up to that block is the path of least resistance, and skipping it requires more effort than doing it. These are not dramatic changes. They will not go viral. There is no aesthetic to post about online. But in a world where the average human being can hold their attention for just 47 seconds, the person who can sit quietly with one thought for 90 minutes has something that money cannot easily buy and algorithms cannot easily take away. A quiet edge. Daniel sits back down at his desk. This time his phone is in the kitchen. His inbox is closed. The door is shut. He opens the report. And he reads. Not perfectly. There are moments where his mind wanders. Old habits do not disappear overnight, but each time it wanders, he notices it, and he brings it back. Gently, without anger, without frustration. One paragraph, then another, then another. The words begin to mean something again. The arguments connect. The data makes sense. The conclusions land. 2 hours pass. He did not check his phone once. His colleague knocks on the door and asks him about the findings. And Daniel remembers. Not because he took a supplement, not because he downloaded an app, not because he watched a video about productivity and felt motivated for 48 hours before going back to his old habits. He remembers because he was present, fully, quietly, completely present. In a meeting room down the hall, his colleagues are half listening while scrolling under the table. In offices across the city, people are finishing their 4th hour of feeling busy while accomplishing almost nothing. On phones everywhere, people are consuming content at a speed that guarantees they will remember none of it. And Daniel is reading. That is the quiet edge. Not a superpower, not a secret, not something that requires a perfect morning routine or a $500 productivity system or a personality transplant. Just the decision, made quietly and without fanfare, to be fully present in a world that has spent billions of dollars engineering your absence. The researcher who started this story, the woman who sat in offices timing attention spans back in 2004, she was asked recently whether she thought the situation was hopeless. She said no. She said the capacity for deep attention has not disappeared. It has simply been buried, and anything that has been buried can be uncovered. You already have everything you need. You just have to decide that your attention is worth protecting. If this video made you think, subscribe to The Quiet Edge. Every single week, we break down the ideas, the science, and the stories behind living deliberately in a world designed for distraction. No noise, no fluff, just the edge. I will see you in the next one.